It's time for Around the Ozarks in 5, brought to you by Talking Rocks Cavern. Explore the beauty above and below ground at Talking Rocks Cavern. The Springfield-Greene County Park Board reminding you to go play. And Roto-Rooter Plumbing and Drain Service. Call Southwest Missouri's best plumber today for a free estimate. Here are your hosts, Ethan and Sarah Foreheads.
Hey, Thursday it is. We made it to Thursday, making our progress through the week. A lot going on this week, probably for you as well. So thanks for taking some time to catch up on the news with us. Let's do it.
Here we go. A Springfield man is in jail after leading Greene County deputies on a chase this week. The 45-year-old man is accused of driving drunk while fleeing authorities. He's also accused of kidnapping a passenger who was in his car who was trying to get him to stop. He was driving 90 miles per hour through town, but fortunately no one was hurt. A citizen arrest of sorts in Puryear. A would-be burglar was detained by neighbors until police arrived after the man attempted to break into a home for a second time. Officers say the man from Mexico broke into a house around 3:40 in the morning in mid-September. He attacked a woman who was sleeping in her bedroom, smothering her until she passed out. Then he sexually assaulted her. That man is in jail without bond, facing a host of very serious charges, and hats off to the people of Puryear who again held him until police arrived.
Yeah, no kidding. Because he could have gotten away again. Who knows what would have happened the next time? Man, that's good for them is right, but that's just horrific. The Springfield School Board decided to delay a vote on adding gender identity and sexual orientation to its policy regarding free lunches for students. The 4-3 vote came after Missouri's Attorney General sent the school board a letter informing them or urging them to ignore the incorrect guidance, he said, from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, which is requiring that language in order to pay for student lunches of kids in the free and reduced lunch program. So there's a standoff currently. It looks like there might be some legal stuff happening by the state. Stay tuned. We'll see. Now, former alderman in Willard is charged with felony wire fraud and identity theft from his time when he worked at Prime Trucking. Corey Hendrickson, who spent 6 years as mayor in Willard, was charged this week, the same day that he suddenly resigned from the Willard Board of Aldermen without stating a reason at the time. He is now accused of embezzling nearly $300,000 from Prime from 2016 to 2021.
Wow. All right. A little movement on the controversial plan for the property that sits at the corner of Sunshine and National, right across from Mercy Hospital, just catty corner. We now know that the newest design will go before the Springfield Planning and Zoning Commission again on December 14th. A developer is hoping to get that rezoned from residential to retail. The developer says his team has addressed changes to the project, including concessions for the University Heights neighborhood, who has been opposed to any development coming in there. Many residents have been fighting it. And if it does get rezoned, it would be an apartment and retail district. So apartments on top, retail and restaurants on the ground floor. But we'll know more on December 14th.
Yeah, they made some changes. It won't be as tall as it was going to be. I think it was going to be 6 stories originally. I think they've lowered that. They've added some trees that they think would be a buffer, but residents, many of them, still don't want it there. Not in my backyard. Kansas City Chiefs player who was arrested a couple of days ago, we told you about that, is now back at practice. Wide receiver Justin Ross bonded out of jail after being arrested for 2 misdemeanors. Domestic battery and property damage. Head coach Andy Reid says Ross is practicing as he can, and the team is continuing to gather information on the case, and we'll go from there. Ross is due back in court on December 4th. And this is interesting. A new Missouri law makes sure that the state pays for a highway or memorial to go up when it's honoring a public servant who's fallen. Until now, the family of the fallen had to foot that bill, if you can imagine. This was brought to light in 2021 when Lance Corporal Jared Schmitz of Wentzville was one of the 13 U.S. service members killed in a suicide bombing at the Kabul airport as the U.S. was very quickly leaving Afghanistan. He was honored with a memorial sign on Interstate 70 in Missouri, yet his family was then billed for that sign. So Governor Parson signed into law a bill in Lance Corporal Jared Schmitz's name, as well as another service member's name, that now says from now on, be it a soldier, a police officer, or firefighter, the state will pay for any public memorial signs or fixtures.
Yeah.
So,
It was pretty unbelievable. So I read a really long article on that, and it sounded almost like an oversight, like they didn't really know, that was happening. So,
right.
Fortunately, that's corrected because I can't fathom that well. So, all right. Springfield Community Gardens is getting $500,000 in grant money. That's exciting. The funding is for educating and empowering underserved urban and rural Greene County communities through sustainable organic food production. That is a mouthful, but essentially they provide a lot of food to a lot of people who need healthy food. Yeah. Springfield Community Gardens was chosen because of its ability to problem solve. They have 16 community gardens in Springfield, and they have donated 2 million pounds of produce to the community. That's incredible.
Very cool. Yeah, good for them.
Very cool. So, big federal grant. A Springfield judge is getting another chance at the Missouri Supreme Court. You might remember us telling you about Ginger Gooch. Well, she is once again among the top 3 candidates for the position. Michael Gardner and John Torbitsky are also vying for that vacancy due to a retirement. Pretty cool. Go Ginger, go. All right. Springfield engineering firm Boss is taking over a Joplin flooring company. Jared Hogan, who's the CEO of Own Inc., has now purchased Joplin Floor Designs Inc. So congratulations to him and his family.
We told you about a little bit of a shakeup in the high school sports scene, Hillcrest, we can tell you, is now the latest school to join the brand new Ozark Mountain Conference. Hillcrest is also the last team to join before the conference starts in the 2024-25 school year. So the Ozark Mountain Conference now includes Bolivar, Branson, Marshfield, Hillcrest, Carl Junction, Logan Rogersville, and West Plains. So that's interesting how one of those schools from the Springfield School District is now a part of this. So, yeah.
And it's a haul for some of those ball games.
Yeah, it will. It's kind of like mirroring the college conference landscape where, you got the Big Ten with teams all over the country in it. I mean, I don't like that at all.
Big 12 now has, I'm in the Big 12, and I think we now have like West Virginia, right? I mean, not new, but in the last few years.
Yeah, you got like eight schools in there, 4 schools now. It's crazy. Yeah. So the conferences are changing. I don't think it's good for college sports, but it's not about what's good for college sports. It's about what's going to make money. So the Big Ten really had a pretty good handle on this to begin with. They set out with the Big Ten Network, which they have, which makes it's TV money. So they set out to get big markets, big TV markets. So they got Rutgers, which is New Jersey, I think, the New York market, basically. They went after other places that, like the state of Nebraska, the whole state is going to watch, and now out west even further. So it's tough to be a fan and go watch games and have rivalries that you used to have, like in the Big Ten, Illinois, Indiana, and in the Big 8, Big 12, Missouri, Kansas, and all that stuff. It's those are fewer and further in between.
Yeah, makes me sad.
Yeah, it's a shame.
It's all right.
But it changes all the time. I'm an old fogey who doesn't like change. It's pretty much true.
I typically do, but because I'm an adventurer. I'm a young fogey, I guess. What does that make me? A young fogey? I don't know. No, an adventurer fogey. Anyway, we're both fogies nonetheless.
Where are you going with this?
No, I've
never heard fogey said so many times in 1 minute.
It's not just the nostalgia that makes me sad about it, is what I'm saying. I just don't want to drive to West Virginia and watch a ball game. That's all.
I don't even know what a fogey is. What's a fogey?
I don't know. I'm tired. Okay.
You got a long day ahead of you.
I
Yeah,
know.
that
Have a
much.
great Thursday, everybody. We're
Yeah,
so
have a
glad
good
you're here.
Thursday.
I
Hey,
shouldn't have said I'm
just
tired. I feel bad now.
we've been talking about rain coming all week.
I'm going to encourage you and wake you up.
I think today is the day that the rain actually comes. So you might want to check with Abby's wake up weather forecast to find
Yeah,
out
you
how
think
much
so?
rain.
Because we've been saying it for 2 days and we've been wrong.
Well, there's been a chance. It's been an increasing chance throughout the
So you're
week,
saying there's a chance.
and it's like an 80% chance today. So it may be raining as you are watching this, depending
All right.
on when you watch it.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Have a good day.
See you later.
See you guys.
It's time for Around the Ozarks Wake Up Weather, sponsored by Scooters Coffee. Here's your host, meteorologist Abby Dyer.
Good morning, everybody. We are waking up to rain on the radar this morning. It is kind of one of those gloomy fall mornings that you just want to stay in, stay cozy, grab a cup of coffee this morning. Thank you, Scooters. And find a way to stay warm and dry today. It is going to be relatively mild in terms of temperatures. In fact, I have us back into the 70s again, low 70s for afternoon highs today. A good deal of cloud cover, though, is going to linger around through the course of the afternoon. And today, the rain chances are looking a bit more widespread than what we had around yesterday when there was a whole lot of dry time, especially in those afternoon hours. You were able to get out yesterday. It was breezy. It's going to be breezy again today. Already this morning, temperatures are starting out in the low 60s, 62, and the wind is blowing. We've got a south breeze that will gust close to 30 miles an hour once again today. Add the rain in with it, and it's just not nice to be outdoors. Temperature could definitely be worse, though, so at least it's mild temperature-wise when the rain chances are coming down, but it's going to be pretty dreary through most of the day today. One of the days you don't want to forget the umbrella. Additional rain chances in my forecast as we head into tomorrow and Saturday and Sunday really too. Look pretty rainy across the Ozarks. We are starting to see some of that nice fall color, the rain bringing the leaves down in some places. Not too bad with the leaf loss just yet, but the setup for today includes rain chances, not just for us here in the Ozarks, but most of the Midwest is dealing with some form of rain today. There's heavy downpours again today from south central Kansas all the way back through central Oklahoma. And this is going to be moving all the way back through portions of central Texas today. So soggy for a lot of the country. Of course, the significant snowfall event that I've been talking about for days is ongoing up in the Northwest. So I guess in comparison, we'd rather be on the warm side of this frontal boundary and the jet stream, right? A few thunderstorms are going to be possible in the forecast as we head into Friday. What happens is we have a cold front on the way. It approaches very late tonight into early tomorrow morning, and then behind it, temperatures crash for the weekend. Today, enjoy the highs in the low 70s, going about 72 for the high temperature forecast today, but we'll stay in the mild range as we head into Friday. And then temperatures take a dive as we head closer to Saturday, and you'll especially feel that cold air by Sunday. Now, as the front approaches, this is going to be late tonight into early in the day on Friday. A few rumbles of thunder will be possible. I don't think we're talking any severe weather here, which is good. However, rain chances do look pretty high. Today, of course, they're going to be widespread. Best opportunity will be along and west of Highway 65, but 3/4 of an inch possible in the rain gauge today. On top of it, another 1/2 inch possible on Friday. Best chance for the rainfall to come down on Friday is going to be in the evening and the overnight hours. And best chance today is, well, right now, this morning into the early afternoon. I expect that we start to see maybe a bit too much water as we head closer to Saturday. In fact, the Weather Prediction Center already has parts of the Ozarks outlined in an excessive rainfall outlook. This is for Saturday. So just heads up if you have plans for the weekend. It does look like we'll have rain around both days, Saturday and Sunday. I know there are a lot of fall festivals, things going on for Halloween. Prepare for the rain and perhaps too much of it on Saturday. Even a 1/2 inch could be too much in some areas, just simply because we've had rain and rounds of it coming through over the last several days. The weekend then advertises the cold air. I'm just full of good news this morning. I know. And we got the cold coming our way for Saturday and Sunday too. Saturday, not as bad. I think we'll see highs fall back to the 50s on Saturday, but we're in the 40s for highs by Sunday, and potentially talking about the first hard freeze of the season by the time we get to the start of next week. So it is going to be kind of whiplash here with temperatures. Enjoy these morning lows that we have this morning, even though it's raining. It's in the 60s. That's going to feel really, really good. We'll be wishing for the 60s in just a couple of days. High temperatures on Friday are still in the mid 70s, about 75 degrees for tomorrow. And then rain chances are still in the forecast for Saturday and Sunday. I think they're fairly light by Sunday, but temps will be cold. 50s for highs on Saturday. 40s, 45 degrees, my forecasted high temp on Sunday. Then we stay in the 40s for highs early next week, but the sunshine will return for us by Monday. And by that point, we will have had almost nearly 6 days in a row of cloud cover and rain. So we'll be looking forward to the sunshine by early next week for sure. Around the country, temperatures turning frigid for many of our friends to the north. It's up in the northern Rockies and the plains. Woo, they are talking 20s for lows tonight. It's going to be pretty cold. We have potentially our first hard freeze of the season early next week. That's an early heads up to you because models could still change. But at this point now, I've been talking about this cold Halloween forecast. Models really indicating that we're going to get this significant push of really chilly temperatures, and they could arrive by early next week. We're talking first thing Monday morning. So thinking about unplugging the hose from the house, bringing in some of those sensitive plants, getting the mums inside before Halloween, before you can show them off when everybody's walking up to the door. That may be important by Monday of next week. So an early heads up on that. Of course, we'll be updating you on that every single day. All right, here is the Around the Ozarks Wake Up Weather Brain Twister Trivia question for the day. This one, I did not know this one either. I feel like I say that every single day. We're both learning on this podcast. All right. So here was the question. What element on the periodic table was first discovered in space before being discovered on Earth? Do you think it was A, silicon, B, helium, C, neon, or D, radium? And the answer is B, helium. Can you believe that? I feel like helium is something that we're so familiar with, thanks to the balloon industry, that it feels so accessible. You almost can't believe that was discovered in outer space before it was here on Earth. But B, helium, the answer. So if you answered B, helium on aroundtheozarks.com, you submitted a guess to our quiz question and you got it right. You are now entered to win a gift card, $20 to Scooters. Congratulations to you. If you missed that one, here is another chance for tomorrow. This one having to do with Halloween. The history of Halloween can be traced all the way back to which ancient civilization? Do you think it is A, the Romans, B, the Sumerians, C, the Germanic tribes, or D, the Celts? Do you know this one? The history of Halloween can be traced back to which ancient civilization? Submit your guess. Be sure to head to aroundtheozarks.com. It is free to enter. You just have to fill out your name, submit your guess, click submit, and that is as simple as it can get. You can win $20 to Scooters Coffee. So head on over there and submit your guess to the Around the Ozarks Wake Up Weather Brain Twister question. Thanks so much for listening this morning. Find a way to stay dry today. Don't forget the umbrella and enjoy the mild temps because the cold is coming this weekend. I'll have an update for you again early tomorrow morning.
It's time for Around the Ozarks Sports Scene with Scott Puryear. Now here's your host, Scott Puryear.
Welcome to Around the Ozarks Sports Scene. I'm Scott Puryear, and we are talking local and national sports here on our weekly podcast. So let's get to it with our weekly recap and our look ahead of the area sports scene, brought to you by your business name here. We're taking sponsorships, so get in touch with the fine folks here at Midwest Family or reach out to me. We'd love to have you be a part of Around the Ozarks Sports Scene, where each week we'll have a pertinent guest on and talk local, regional, national sports. You name it, we'll probably cover it on here. So kind of looking back and looking ahead with the sports scene this week. Of course, high school football playoffs are here starting this Friday around the Ozarks. District play is underway. A lot of the top teams will have a bye this week, but the others will play for the right to survive and advance. That's kind of the name of the game now with high school football is you play, you live another day, if you win, and you go on from there. We're going to talk a lot more about that here in a few minutes with Chris Parker, the guru of high school sports coverage with the Ozarks Sports Zone. But kind of looking back, a good weekend for Missouri State Bears football. They took care of business at home on homecoming against Murray State with a 28-24 win to get to 3-4 in the season. Looking now to get back to that 500 mark at 4-4. They've got a big test at number 24, Youngstown State, this weekend. So good chance for the Bears and Coach Ryan Beer to get back to even ground on the season in an always tough Valley Conference. Not going to be easy down the stretch, but big accomplishment if you can get back to 4-4 at this point. Evangel, they continue their role. They're now 8-0 on the year, number 12 nationally in the NAIA Top 25. They beat number 25 Friends 20-11 last week. Coach Chuck Heppela's team continuing to roll on and play very well. The Valor are at McPherson this Saturday in KCIC conference play there. So Evangel continues their role. Another good day for the Missouri Tigers at home as they thump South Carolina 34-12. Mizzou now 7-1, their best start in many years. Eli Drinkowitz has got them playing well and making believers out of a lot of people on the national level at this point now. They have the weekend off. They've got a big test on November 4th when they visit number 1 Georgia, a game that I think we'll learn a lot more about both programs. Are the Tigers for real, and is this Georgia Bulldog team as good as the team that's won back-to-back national champions and maintained that top 5 status throughout this year, and unbeaten as well. So we'll see what happens on November 4th down in Athens, Georgia. Miserable weekend for the Arkansas Razorbacks and their fans. If you watch this game, congratulations, especially if you did not fall asleep at any point during it. The Razorbacks fell 7-3 at home to Mississippi State, a game that basically got their offensive coordinator, Dan Enos, fired, as Sam Pittman just had to do it over the weekend, get rid of him a day later, make some changes, try to get this offense out of its slumber. Pittman, by the way, is still on a hot seat, a very hot seat, I would think, at this point, as the Razorbacks are 2-6 and have lost 6 in a row. They are off this weekend, kind of a chance to lick their wounds before they head down to Gainesville to play Florida on November 4th as well. And lastly, the Chiefs, they keep rolling. They beat the Chargers 31-17 on Sunday. About time this defense starts getting some of the recognition it deserves. I mean, they're holding everybody under 20 points. They're coming up with the key takeaways when they need to. And while Patrick Mahomes has not been maybe the Patrick Mahomes of the past few years, 4-touchdown effort on Sunday kind of showed that, he gets settled in with some of his weapons. They bring Mecole Hardman back at receiver. That's going to be a plus, I think, for the Chiefs, and they continue rolling. So Chiefs are at Denver this weekend. On the surface, looks like it should be a fairly easy Kansas City win. The Broncos' defense is terrible. Their offense has trouble finding the end zone consistently, so the Chiefs could continue rolling on in an AFC West that they've pretty much locked up already now, just trying to get to the finish line there. Back in the day, there was a newspaper that you could wake up the next morning and check the scores on everything, whether it was a volleyball match or soccer match or football game or golf tournament, whatever. Well, those days are gone. And now when I need to find out stuff, I usually go to the Ozarks Sports Zone website and see their content, because that's basically the most comprehensive place I can find things on high school sports in the area. The guy that is the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain for that, so to speak, Chris Parker, is my guest this week. Chris, thanks for joining me.
Oh, appreciate you having me. Glad to be on.
You betcha. Yeah, I think we need to come up with, I think that we've got maybe on Siri or Amazon, Alexa or something where Ron Hurst gives a forecast, when prompted. I want a Ask Parker for the scores each morning, if I can do that. You think we can come up with that and get Brian McDonough to foot the bill?
Oh, I'll have to go talk to him and see what he thinks. See what he thinks about it.
Well, how challenging is this for you guys? Before we get into some content here, just on the scheduling each week and knowing where to send who and all that. When do you do that, and how much time do you spend on that?
It's pretty much how I spend my Thursdays for the following week. I kind of look at what's going on and what lines up for the big games and things like that. And then once you get into districts, you're just at the mercy of who wins and when they're going to play. So, for example, I know that there's going to be Thursday volleyball games this week, and we're 2 days away from that, but there's a couple of them that I don't know who the teams are going to be yet because they play their districts tonight. So it's you try to get ahead as much as you can, but at this time of year, you're living day by day. I mean, we got state softball this weekend, so either Marion Sierra is going to play both their games on Friday, or if they win their first one on Friday, they play on Saturday, and then you got to deal with the rain. So as much as you try to plan, there's just only so much you can do.
Adapt and react to everything, right? Basically, is what you got to do on your toes there. So, well, again, I love having you on because we can talk about all sports and kind of, those sports fans out there, like I mentioned, that you were used to getting it all in print. Doesn't happen anymore now. So you got to have somebody kind of say, if I could get a summary of everything going on, who would it be? That's when I turn to Chris Parker. And of course, big news in the last couple of weeks was some conference realignment, kind of starting to look like the colleges now with people on the move there. But the formation of the Ozark Mountain Conference was a big announcement. Since then, we've seen Parkview and Hillcrest be invited to join the league. We've seen Glendale and Kickapoo invited to leave the Ozark Conference and join the COC. How does all this shake down, and what are your thoughts to this point on what's happened?
Well, first off, we should get some clarity sometime in the next 2 days. Now, Parkview and Hillcrest were not invited to the Ozark Mountain Conference. They have petitioned to become. Okay. And so is that a formality, you think, or what are your thoughts on that? I mean, nothing's a formality until it's final. Not the way everything has gone. Neosho, for example, put out a release to their community on voting on whether they should look at, because the Ozark Mountain Conference did reach out to Neosho, and they put out something to their community to say, what do you guys think? Should we join this conference or stay in the COC? And came back about 36 hours later and said they were staying in the COC. So just because someone has been asked or is asking to does not mean really anything at this point. So there's still uncertainty there because you can't imagine that they're going to. I was surprised that the SPS might divide up their schools, but that seems to be something they're okay with doing. But I think a lot depends on what the Ozark Mountain Conference says on kind of the future of the rest of the alignment.
From a competitive balance standpoint, isn't it best for Hillcrest and Parkview to maybe get in another league like that? Because, I mean, it can't be fun for those kids, and the numbers probably show it when, and we're based on football. We know things are different in basketball and other sports, baseball, things like that, but that can't be fun for those kids in football right now the way it is.
Yeah, and they're both working on building. And I will say this in relation to, like, I watched Hillcrest and Parkview this last week, saw some good things. Hillcrest played Camdenton within a possession or two for like 3 quarters a couple weeks ago, so they're building there. But in terms of looking at similarly sized competition, I mean, Parkview is a little bit smaller, and Hillcrest is a Class 4 school, so the Ozark Mountain Conference, for size-wise, makes a lot more sense than, say, going to the COC, where Kickapoo and Glendale are just larger schools. They're Class 4 soccer schools. Glendale is, Kickapoo solidly a Class 6 football school, and then even look down and kind of why some of the other schools made the decisions. Ozark, Nixa, they're Class 6 schools, even Waynesville's Class 6 schools, and Joplin. So it does make a lot more sense, especially when you're talking about a physical sport like football where numbers matter. I mean, there's a reason why on the basketball court we can have the blue and gold where Crane plays Kickapoo, but you really can't do it where Skyline plays Kickapoo on the football field. It's a safety issue. There's just more numbers, and that's what it comes down to. So I think from a numbers standpoint, it makes a lot of sense making that move for football. Absolutely, and same token, Kickapoo and Glendale to the COC, that seems to make good sense as well. Yeah, they're natural fits in every sense, size-wise, geographic-wise, quality of the overall athletic programs. I mean, I know we look at this from football, but just imagine that conference in baseball. I mean, it's insane from top to bottom. And, over the last couple of years with how we've seen how enrollments had developed amongst all the schools and kind of the trends, it makes a lot of sense for them to go there, and I think they're a really, really good fit. And I think the CSC, that's why they were proactive and invited instead of reacting. This is kind of like choosing your team on the playground, though, too, that
somebody's going to get left out and have hurt feelings. Who are some of those teams right now that are watching from the sideline going, well, what are we going to do if the OC falls apart, and what happens to them?
Well, right now if you're Lebanon, Camdenton, Waynesville, and Rolla, the 4 teams to the north. You're just waiting to see what happens. It's entirely possible the OC stays together with 8 teams as we talk right now. There's a lot of possibilities here, but for those 4, I haven't talked to any of the ADs or superintendents up there yet, but they've got to be kind of starting to look around and where can we go, because all of this is driven by football, in my opinion. You can fill out a basketball schedule, non-conference, because you don't have to play every Friday night. You can play, like, if we don't have something on Friday, we can play on Thursday, we can play on Saturday. It's pretty easy to move that around. But for football, you have to fill out a 9-week schedule that plays once a week on either Thursday, Friday, or Saturday. And then if you don't have that full of, like right now, the OC, the COC, and the Big 8 were all closed conferences. They didn't have to worry about scheduling non-con. You take, for example, once you get into where you're having to schedule non-conference, Battle in Columbia played Wichita High School from Wichita, Kansas, in Kansas City to be able to fill out their schedule because there just wasn't available in Missouri for the week they needed at the competition level they were looking for. So yeah, we're less than we're 10 months out from the start of the next football season, and teams got to get their football schedule set. You got to start playing matchmaker and seeing what schools are the size and the quality that you can play and make it a competition. So that's the biggest thing hanging out here is if the OC did go away, that's potentially 4 games that Lebanon, Rolla, Waynesville, Camdenton are losing off of their schedule, and they've got to fill out those 4 on pretty short notice.
Do you think the COC might sniff around Lebanon and Camdenton in particular and not be done with maybe Glendale and Kickapoo?
I haven't heard one way or the other on any of it for sure. Just my opinion. 10 makes sense for in the football scheduling. You have a closed schedule. It's set every year. You're good to go. And then once you get to 12, you got a true round robin at 10. Once you get to 12, then you have split conference champions, and then you question, should we just go to 2 divisions, and it gets more complicated. A 10-team conference is just about the perfect number. So I would say that they would probably look to stay at 10. You would think that if they were proactive in inviting Glendale and Kickapoo, that if they were looking to go further than that, they would have already.
Is the Ozark Mountain an option for either one of those, any of those 4 Ozark Conference teams if needed? Or are they too big?
I haven't heard. You got to think they're probably too big, but I say that they invited Neosho, and Neosho had their classified enrollment's around 1,100. They're right in line. They're probably bigger than Camdenton, right in line with Lebanon. Waynesville is a little bit bigger than them. They're a Class 6 football school, but I would think it would be unlikely. I would see scheduling. I could see a scheduling partnership essentially if it did come to pass that the Ozark Mountains, like Ballover, could schedule Camdenton and Waynesville and Rolla and fill out their schedule. So you could still see them pop up on schedules, but I don't think the size makes a lot of sense for being full conference members.
So do you think there's more to come on all this, and maybe even some of the smaller schools are kind of waiting to see how it all plays out?
I think this is the last domino. I think figuring out whether or not the COC is adding to and the OMC is adding to. I think it's the last domino. The small schools are pretty set. The Big 8, they released a statement saying they're staying at 9. They're good staying at 9. The SCA out there east of town, it's not going to change. It's a tradition-rich conference. The Southwest Conference, they seem pretty solid as well. So. And then the Mid-Lakes, obviously, pulling in Catholic, Hollister, and Reed Spring. They've got themselves to 8. They seem happy there, and they're all within a decent amount of size of each other. So I would say this is kind of the last of this round of realignment that we're looking at.
Very good. It is football district time, the most wonderful time of the year. For you, that means every night somebody's done for the year. So you're paring down the number of teams you cover from that on, and they just get better as you go deeper. Do we have any potential state champions in high school football? I know that Marionville's number 1 in Class 1. We got our Lamar and Seneca. Nix is hanging in there in the top 5. What do you see maybe this time next month? Who's still around?
Well, I mean, it's going to start with, we can start at the top. I mean, Nixa is unbeaten, but the Class 6 is it's a different, once you get to the state playoffs, the Class 6 is a completely different animal. With the St. Louis schools and those Kansas City schools that have all this extreme high-level FBS-type talent. But, I mean, Nixa's got a program going. They play together, they play well, and the biggest thing that they have going for them is they can control the game on both the offensive and defensive lines, and you can't compete at the state level unless you start right there and do that. So Nixa, I'm picking them to win their district, and then that kicks you into the quarterfinals where they're probably looking at Lee Summit North, and you win that game. Lee Summit North has been number one basically all season in our state rankings, or in the Missouri state rankings. Nixa wins that game, then there's no reason they shouldn't be on the short list of state champions. You drop down to Class 5. It's a class that we've had a lot of success in over the last several years. Carthage won a couple of years back there. Webb City, since they moved up, they've been very good in that class. And for me, the district championship, if seeds hold, that caveat, the district championship to watch is Lebanon Republic. If the ones and the twos all get there, that's a heck of a game and a real, that litmus test COC, OC. But Lebanon, again, like I started with Nixa, Lebanon controls the line of scrimmages, controls the ball, plays a type of football just like Webb City that travels well this time of year. And then Webb City, they actually go on a different way from Lebanon. So I don't believe that they would actually have to see each other until the state semifinal. So we could have an all local state semifinal. You drop down to Class 4, we're a little bit leaner there this year after all the restructuring. A bunch of our better teams moved up, and Nevada's the top ranked there. They're in a very tough conference with a couple of teams who had to vacate wins, so that district seedings are all a little bit off from what you would think. You may see some upsets in that district. Class 3, again, Seneca has looked amazing this year. I can't think of a Class 3 team that has probably played a tougher schedule than Seneca, and so they're definitely prepared and ready to take on all comers in that class. When you look at the number one team there, Blair Oaks, they're always a load, and then Ava is a 9-0. They're one of the last unbeatens in that entire class. And SCA football, again, both Seneca and Ava control the line, can run the ball. Lamar's been at number one in Class 2 is where everything changed the most with the way they're doing classifications now, making Class 1 smaller. The Class 2, it's an impossible. There are a bunch of teams that have one loss this year that aren't even considered in the state poll because of the top 9 in the state rankings. They have 2 losses total among the top 9, and one of them is Lamar, who's ranked number 1. So really anything could happen there because you got a lot of the traditional powers like East Buchanan and Adrian who've moved up to make that class even deeper and even more difficult. Fairgrove's kind of my dark horse because they break to the other side of Lamar. So the way the bracket sets up this year with Fairgrove in 4 and Lamar in 5, District 5, we could actually see a Lamar-Fairgrove state championship game if it got that far.
Wow.
And then, it really got – Fairgrove got the break they've been looking for a while because they've played in 7 or 8 state district title games, and of those 7 or 8, I think they've lost to Lamar in 6 or so of them. So it was a very fortunate break. And then Marionville's been the last undefeated team in Class 1, but Portageville's in their district, and for me, that's probably a potential state championship game. Portageville is a very good team. They beat an unbeaten Class 2 New Medford County Central last week by 40 or so. It was 43-0. So there's some quality there. But that's kind of a rundown of who's competing where.
Yeah, and kind of getting back to that Class 6, it's been very rare that we got a Nixa-Kickapoo football matchup. Do you see Kickapoo beating Joplin in that semifinal and setting that up?
Well, Scott, right, that right there. If Republic Lebanon would be my most interesting potential state or district championship matchup, that one is the one I've got circled for a district semifinal. We're going to make picks, and I don't know how to pick that one. I just don't. Joplin's got all the talent in the world, but Kickapoo just plays such strong defense and plays within themselves so well that I really wouldn't know how to pick it, to be honest with you. It could go either way.
That and I'm not sure how they're set up now. I don't know if it's odd even or what they do. But if we get a Nixa Lee Summit North game, which place would that be?
That one should be. They are 6-5. That'd be at Nixa.
At Nixa.
So,
nice.
Yeah. So with all the districts this year, it's an odd number year. So top of the bracket hosts, and then after that they go to for the quarterfinals, and then after that you go to the who's hosted more and all that stuff.
Very good. So, well, if I held a gun to your head, which I promise I won't, and you had to predict on how many and who might be hoisting a state championship trophy from our area, who you got?
I like the small. I like Lamar and Marionville. To be honest with you, Class 5 has Cardinal Ritter at the top. They're really good. Class 4, Smithville and Lutheran North are both incredible. And that Blair Oaks program is tough to beat. Seneca would probably be the other one I would see potentially making a run to a title game, but Blair Oaks is going to be a tough one to beat. And then Class 6 is just so deep and strong that there's probably legitimately 6 teams who could win there, 7. It's tough to come out on top of that class. If you do, you're the best team. You're probably the best team in the state, in my opinion.
Well, I don't know if you know this, Chris, but there are other sports this fall besides football going on, since you have to cover literally every one of them. Tell us about, let's start with state softball. What do we got there this weekend coming into town?
The area's down to one team, and that's Mooresville. And we had Willard, Nevada, Camden, and Cassville all made the quarterfinals. All 4 of them lost. So, yeah, Mooresville Marion Sierra Lee is carrying the torch for the area. They play Jamestown starting to schedule for Friday. We'll see what the weather does. And if they win that on Friday, they'll advance to the state title game on Saturday. If they lose their semifinal, they'll play the third-place game that night. So that's kind of the only Southwest Missouri interest at the state softball tournament.
Boys soccer, what are we looking at there this fall?
Boys soccer, Ozark appears to be the class of our bigger class. They are a district host and the tops in the COC. They've basically beaten all comers in the area. Glendale has moved up this year to Class 4, so that was kind of a big change with that move, because they've been, our standard bearer, to be honest with you, in Class 3 for the last several years. So it's kind of opened the door for some other teams to maybe compete in there. And, Camdenton and the Catholic are the top 2 seeds there in Class 3, our local Class 3 district. Rogersville in Class 2, unbeaten this year, 20-0. They are probably, looking at like the power rankings that the coaches put out, Rogersville is probably our best chance at a state champion based on, because the Missouri Soccer Coaches Association, they do a whole thing with basically like BCS rankings. They take results and strength of victory and all that. And Rogersville has consistently been the highest rated team for Southwest Missouri. So they look like they are probably the class. And then Fairgrove is really the last Springfield area team that's in Class 1, and they're the 3 seed in their district. So that's kind of a line out of what soccer looks like.
Do we have a potential state volleyball champion? I saw my buddy Dan Evans has Clever on quite a roll now too, doesn't he? Oh yeah, we have multiple opportunities for state volleyball champions. I mean, starting tonight, where I'm heading up to Waynesville because Ozark and Kickapoo are playing their district championship at Waynesville. Make it make sense. That's going all the way up there. It's gonna hurt the crowds. Which I was hoping that they were going to move it closer so more crowds could be there, like they did with last Saturday. Webb City and Carl Junction were to play a district volleyball championship in Branson, and they decided to move it to McDonald County, Anderson. And a lot of the communities, both communities, are very happy about that move. But they're playing at Waynesville tonight. And the winner of that will get Blue Spring South. That Blue Spring South, and again, at the kind of like with football, at the Class 6 level, nobody gets there by accident. So there's really potential for anybody. Webb City, they won their district, but I honestly think our best chance is probably down in Class 2. Fairgrove is currently sitting. They won their district last night, and they're 31-1 this year.
Just incredible. A lot of the same girls who helped them win a state basketball title are back for this volleyball team. And they're on a crazy good 2-year run where last year they went 30-2. So over the last 2 years, they are 61-3-6.
Wow.
Just an incredible run going for the Fairgrove Athletic Program. And yet you alluded to Dan Evans in Class 3. What an incredible job he's done taking over for this year after he retired and then they got him right back out of retirement. Honestly, some of their biggest competition is going to be Mountain Grove and Nevada to get to the Final Four. Mountain Grove's 25-4 this year. They won a district championship last year and fell to Mount Vernon or Nevada, I believe it was. And just couldn't quite get over the hump, but they got a couple of really good high-level volleyball players. And then down in Class 1, Galena, they've got one of the better – Galena and Jasper are both one-loss teams. Galena's 33-1-1, while Jasper, which is out there kind of the Lamar area, Lamar, Nevada, they're 34-1-1. And so you could potentially have 33-1 versus 34-1 in a quarterfinal. And they've got two of the better small school athletes, and honestly better athletes, in the area, in Crystal Smith for Jasper. She is a state champion high jumper, really great basketball player, and just a game changer on the volleyball court. And Galena has Keisha Walter, who she'd be playing for any team in Southwest Missouri, and it's just not a Class 1 thing. So either one of those teams could represent Southwest Missouri with a state title.
Wow. And Dan Evans, by the way, has retired more times than Sugar Ray Leonard in his boxing career, too, and come out of retirement. So congratulations to Dan to keep getting it done down there at Clever. I can't believe they're a Class 3 school, Clever.
It was weird to see Rogersville and Bolivar competing with Stratford and Clever in the same district.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. But a couple other fall sports want to touch on. Girls golf. I know Paige Bowman came away as a state medalist out of Glendale, correct? Any other highlights there in girls golf?
Yeah. Paige had a really, really good 2 days there and came away leading Glendale and finishing tied for first, and they both get first. So she shot a 75-73. And then Josie Roberts was fourth in Class 4. Nevada's Emery Cameron committed to Louisville last week. She's only a junior, and she went 67-67 to just dominate and showed why that she is a high-level, ACC-level golfer, going back-to-back 67, shot a 10 under for the tournament. Just an incredible 2 days for her. New Covenant Savannah Thessing was aiming for a third state title, came up one stroke short in her senior season. She finishes with 2 state championships and a runner-up this year for New Covenant. And then over in Class 1, we actually had a tie for the championship with Riley Allred from Ash Grove, tying with Cameron Wood from Liberty Mountain View. And the interesting thing with Liberty Mountain View there is this is their first year for a girls golf program. So 1 year, one champion.
There you go. I know girls tennis. Did we get kind of shut out of that? I know Nixa won a district, I believe, didn't they? But did we have anybody go far?
Yeah, the farthest was the only team we had at the Final Four in Southwest Missouri was Thomas Jefferson down there in at the Joplin area, and they took a third or fourth. They did not win it, so that was kind of our best finisher there. We had some individuals do pretty well, but nobody won state. Several placers across all classes, but we didn't have any finalists.
And then cross country, that's coming up soon, isn't it? The finals of that.
Yeah, we have districts this Saturday. Nixa's hosting a double district, and Lamar's hosting a triple district. And the Nixa boys, they are a definite threat to win, to push for a state championship. They're probably the deepest team that I've covered in cross country in my 10, 11 years here. One of their JV runners at conference went 16:35. That's going to be top 3 on most any other team in Southwest Missouri, and he was their number 8 guy. They're looking at running 20, 25 deep under 18 minutes or 19 minutes. It's an insanely deep group, and one of our athlete of the week from Republic, Gracie Truster, she is just an incredible runner. She's hands down the best Southwest Missouri girls runner. So those are kind of the top end teams that I'm watching, but we typically do well throughout all classes. I'm all the way down to Hermitage in Class 1 for the boys. They're looking to repeat as state champs. So there's talent up and down classes 1 through 5.
Very good. And before we let you go, I know we'll talk more about it this winter, but kind of give us a sneak peek at high school basketball. Who we watching in boys and girls this winter?
I'm keeping my eyes on the usual suspects. The big one for me is honestly Fairgrove. For the girls, they bring, I think they should have everybody back except for Cameron Green, who was kind of their top player. But they have to have a new coach. But that new coach is a veteran in Gary Green, and he knows everything Fairgrove can do because he coached the Mansfield girls last year, who played against Fairgrove in the state quarterfinals. So they're great. Looking forward to seeing kind of some of the new names who can step up after the graduation of some really, really high level athletes. And Central, they've added Tyreek Brooks from Waynesville. You remember Tyreek Brooks was runner-up in the Bass Pro Tournament of Champions dunk contest last year.
Yeah.
So they've got a high-quality basketball program over there, and I mean it's proven why they're getting invited to everything they are. And then if you go way, way out to the very eastern edge of the viewing area, the Thayer boys bring back everything. For my money, the Thayer boys basketball team could be the best team in Southwest Missouri, and they're scheduling like it. They're opening up playing at a big St. Louis area tournament. They're normally in the Kabul holiday tournament. They've gotten out of that to really beef up their schedule. So they're really state championship or bust out there.
Nobody does it better than Chris Parker of the Ozarks Sports Zone. Chris, certainly appreciate your time, and try to get some sleep at some point before May, okay?
No, I'll give it a go.
Very good. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Time for our Scott's Thoughts segment. Of course, it's a chance for me to wrap up the podcast with some thoughts and ramblings and musings about things in the sports world. At this taping, the Texas Rangers are in the World Series and trying to figure out who they're going to play, either the Phillies or the Diamondbacks. That game is Tuesday night tonight, so the Rangers are awaiting an opponent. Nice to see Texas in there. I think it's good to get the new teams in the finals, the newer teams that haven't been in a while. It's been a while for Texas. Fun team to watch. It will be a painful reminder for St. Louis Cardinal fans of what could have been, maybe. The fact that Adolis Garcia, the Texas slugger, big key to their offense and an outfielder, is one of the stars for that team and has been on a complete tear here in the playoffs for the Rangers. Of course, he was a Cardinals minor league prospect. Spent a lot of time here in Springfield playing, and the Cardinals basically gave him up for next to nothing a few years back. So it'll be a painful reminder for the Cardinal fans watching Adolis Garcia tear up somebody's pitching staff. Also, Jordan Montgomery will be a key pitcher for the Rangers in the World Series. Former Cardinals player. They let him go at the trade deadline for some prospects. Didn't feel like they could re-sign him in the offseason. Yet here's a guy that would have been a great key figure, part of that rotation for the Cardinals next season if they could have come up with the dollar amount. So I'm going to pick the Rangers in 7 games regardless of who they're facing. I think it'll be a fun series. Kind of hoping that it's Philadelphia because I think if you've got those two offenses going at it, we're going to see a lot of 12-11 type games in that series with the bats that the Phillies bring as well. Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. I did not know if you've heard this, but they are a thing. When will it stop? That's what football fans are wondering. The NFL loves it because it's bringing a whole new fan base in to figure out who the heck this Kelce guy is. Interesting stats were shown on the screen this weekend of the Chargers game showing Travis Kelce's stats with and without T. Swift in attendance. And believe it or not, he plays better when she's there. So if you're a Chiefs fan, I think you better just bite your tongue and be okay with the fact that she's probably going to show up at most games the rest of the way, and that's a good thing for the Kansas City offense. When she's in there with Mrs. Mahomes and they're coming up with new celebration dances and gestures of their own. So if you don't like the nonstop coverage and the crowd shots of Taylor Swift at the Chiefs games, I'd say you probably just need to shake it off. Be sure to play the Guess the Chiefs score contest on the AroundTheOzarks.com website for your chance each week to win Chiefs tickets and autographed prizes. I've got some cool stuff on there. All you've got to do is go on and enter your predicted score for the game that week. Of course, this Sunday will be the Chiefs at Denver, so get online and get your entry in. And if you like this podcast, we are now on all the popular podcast platforms like Apple, Google, and Spotify. And, of course, we encourage you to download the Around the Ozarks app so you can sample all the great content and podcasts for your listening pleasure. That'll do it for this week's Around the Ozarks Sports Scene. Thanks for listening.